Okay, Jeremy here, partsbreakers.com, Jeeps Unlimited, and let's give you a bird's eye view of the yard. We're up in our upper lot where we actually have our house. But so we got 7 acres out here between the upper portion over here and our lower, and you can see all our fun stuff. So anyway, without further ado, here's our 79 CJ7 that we just got in, and it's got some good parts on it. It's got some bleak areas as well, but it's got some tasty things that people call about. So let's go over the main reason I'm doing this for the first guy. He's wanting a frame. So 7 frames, specifically late model frames. This is a wide track. Are getting hard to get. I get a lot of narrows, but not a lot of, which is the early, that's 76 to 81 ish. They're 82 to 86 on a 7 is a wide track. The biggest difference on them, if people are wanting to know, is going to be basically the shock towers. Okay, that's the noticeable difference when you walk up to them. So if you're walking up to one and it's a later one and it's got little welded on shock towers that are somewhere in here, it looks like a little triangle mount with a little post on it. Actually, it sticks out this way for your shocks. Down in this area, then that's a narrow track, and same with the later one. If you see that on a later one, then you know that somebody's done a swap on it. It's not a big deal, but if you're trying to do original, it's really not hard to adapt these to do them. These are obviously bolt-on. The other style is a weld-on, but you can cut them off and do them vice versa. But when we do get a late one, that is kind of a nice thing just to have what it is. So obviously we'll have to do a full teardown on this, but normally what we do, because they sell so quick, is we get deposits on frames. That gets it put on the list. Tubs are the same way. Gets it put on our list for dismantle, and then we'll get it fully pulled down, get it cleaned up. We don't do any prep work painting wise. We want you to see the frame as it was pulled, other than cleaning it with a 4000 psi hot seat. That allows us to blow through any weak spots in them if there are. Normally they're not. This thing was always in Colorado, so there's a high chance this frame is going to be solid through in and out. We always scope them afterwards. We run a camera down them just to make sure there's nothing hidden on them. And then of course we try to buy everything in minimal damage shape, which means basically if you look at it, your bumpers are straight, front and rear, no damage, no T-bones, nothing like that. So this one is a good example of a parts sheep that we can, at least validate it's not crashed. We'll still spec it out at the end just to make sure it's not bent anywhere that we can't really see, that the naked eye can't see. So anyway, so without further ado, we've already seen the left front. Here's the right front. See a little bit of, when you get bare metal, it oxidizes like this. This is not rust, and people see stuff like this oftentimes and don't really know the difference. So paint is factory, right? You have the black paint here throughout all this stuff, right? So when this wears off, and what's cool about our frames, a lot of times there's still factory paint even on them, so that's how you can tell how clean our frames are. Meaning this is like a 40-year-old paint job, it's still in existence. But in the cases that something's rubbed and got the paint worn off, you're going to have oxidized metal first. You introduce salt to it, you start getting a little bit of scaling, a little bit of surface rust, right? This is not that. This is just oxidized, nice and smooth. This can be cleaned up real easy. This could be cleaned up with a Scotch-Brite pad. That's how easy this is. It's not actually penetrated into the metal like you'll see in other areas. I'll see if I can find, I'm sure there's going to be at least one spot. The rear of these frames usually like to get a little rust inside, or they start eating inside and out, and I'll show you that here in a second. But anyway, so that's just oxidized metal there. And then the front, obviously nice solid there. From what we can see, obviously there's always chances of when we get pulled. So one thing to note right here, I see they put a body bushing on this for right there. Okay, so this is a body lift kit that this thing's got. It might more likely has a spring lift as well. Yeah, it does have spring lift as well on it. So they probably just wanted to gain a little height, potentially for the motor that's in this guy, which I haven't confirmed what even is yet. It is a 360, so it's got a 360 in it. I'll show you how you can tell that here in a second. But anyway, this is a good idea what they did here. They reinforced this mount. Essentially stock, this has got a rubber bushing, really soft. and it goes from the tub to the factory body frame mount, right? So, but this is pretty thin up here, this material, and so when you get rid of that isolator and you go to a solid hard plastic like this is, they did the right thing here, because normally what happens is it pushes through. It does push through the tub usually as well, but it also will start eating out these pockets. It just makes them. So anyway, they put, looks like 1/4 inch thick steel plate there, and so that's there. Just know that if you're not putting a body lift on this is totally usable still. If you leave this the way it is, you're going to have a little bit of a not even a 1/4 inch raise in it, which actually might help with clearancing. So I wouldn't be opposed to this here. They could have done a little bit cleaner job. And if you don't like it, then I would simply take a grinder and cut that off. Or if you don't want to mess with all of it, you could cut it off here and just, I have these guys, so you can redo them. But I don't think that's necessary, and depending on what you're doing, all this gets hidden. It's all up underneath. So just something to point out. Okay, so real quick on the engine note, people always ask how to identify these. These are really easy to identify, but you got to get down into them to look. And if you look right there, see it clear as day. There's a big 360. That's a 360 block. You'll see 304, and then the rarity one. This is actually getting rare, the 360, but the real rare one is the 401. Okay, so that's how, if you're looking at one and somebody claims it is something and you're not sure, that's how you look. You look right up underneath the motor mount. If it's pulled, it's real easy to see. If it's not pulled, they're kind of a pain in the butt to see, unless these fenders are pulled like this one. Sometimes fishing a camera down there and trying to take a side picture is easier to do. So it's got steps that are bolted on. They don't look welded, so those should come off real easy. I like that better than the weld on, because it's kind of a pain for people that don't want to run a step like this. They're more than welcome to have that step. If it's something you like, we can keep it on there. We'd have to probably unbolt it for the shipping, because it makes it too wide. But the same thing they did here. They just reinforced all these plates here and so forth. So so far this frame is grade A. Okay, this is kind of what the front looks like for your shock towers when you're looking at those for an or for a narrow track. This is factory on a rear shock tower. Okay, that's what they look like on all of them, but on the narrow track early, you're gonna have this up front as well. Okay, so going back to the rear, this looks factory, nice solid, nothing in here. Okay, this is the area here that usually, and this one's actually in really good shape too, this likes to really eat out back here on a lot of these. Now this is a pretty easy fix, and they sell a new reinforcement bracket. You can get these new, this piece back here. I wouldn't replace this one. It's actually really nice. I mean, again, they reinforced it up here for the mount, and you can get rid of that. And really, when you get rid of this big gap that's showing up here is going to go away when you put the factory ones. That's what a body lift does. So if you don't know all this stuff, you're learning a little bit as we go through it. And if you know all this shit, I apologize, and just reiterating, but rather have you see it a million times than get something that you don't want. So, okay, so back here, now this one's a good example. We can see, first off, it's got packed material in there. So more than likely it's gotten dirt stuck in there, and it's starting to eat from its inside out. So this one's not too bad. Definitely discounted a little bit. But because it's definitely still usable. I would treat this, cut this out, reinforce it, get the material out. Our washer will get a lot of it out. But you know, you don't want to leave this stuff in, because it just is can continue to eat this area out back here. But still, I mean, this would be, at this point, I'm going to say this is an A- frame because of this. If it wasn't for that, it would be an A frame. Again, I could see something. When we pull it, we might see something that's hidden. This area down here, which looks real clean on these guys, right underneath these leaf spring perches. This is a box and frame, right? So they take, basically on these old frames, they take 2 C channels, essentially, right? Stamp steel, and they put them within each other. And so because of that, there's an overlap that happens down here at this seam. You can't really see it, but we can do it when we get it fully dismantled. That sometimes can create rust in these. This one is really nice, so there's no rot there, but that can be a problematic area. So, and then the other area that's super hard to see right now, we won't know until we pull it, but it does look good, is going to be the mounting surface for this guy. Since there's been some work done, they put a drop here on it. This is probably really going to be nice and clean under there. But again, so okay, so that tells you the frame. I know this video is getting to be kind of lengthy, but I'll go over a couple more things on it just to wrap it up. So it's got some really nice doors on it. They could be cleaned up a little bit, but these doors are actually for CJ style. I always call these old screen door style handles, okay? They open and close, the latch mechanism's nice. Panels, there's got a little tear in it, cranks are in here. I haven't messed with these, but I assume those roll down. I'll get that in another video. They look like they're gonna operate okay, but we'll make sure. These, you know, rust up in here is super common. These are really clean, there's no rust in them. Windows, glass is all there on that side at least, and I think the other side is there too, so that looks just as good. You're gonna have always, even on the new Jeeps up to 06, you're gonna have little cracks here. There's a stress crack. You can see it over on that one a little bit. Okay, so that's one notable thing on this guy. And then you have a tilt steering column in this. I can't tell you how rare these have become. We probably get one a year that's usable, if that. And this one's nice and tight. It's got a little bit of wobble, not a lot, but it definitely has a little bit, so they start wearing out in these. This one's still very usable. And what happens is people use these to get in and out. They're holding on these wheels when they're getting up in them, and that's what wears out that tilt. So if somebody doesn't continue to do that, this column will last a long time. Somebody continues to do that, a couple years maybe before it's going to need to be rebuilt. But all the pieces are there, so we'll discount it slightly for the little bit of play that's in it. But these columns are rare, so if you are looking for a tilt column with keys, of course, and the wheel, then I would grab this guy up. Okay. Other notable thing is this is more than likely got a hydraulic clutch pedal on it in this year.